You could tell that there's like just a certain level of respect that his friends had for him because of all that he had gone through. Like, there was no being in Quinton's presence without feeling like everyone could feel like he is just a stud.
You don't expect that. You don't expect an 11-year-old kid with cancer. One day he just came to me, and we were in the living room here, and he came in and Dad, my back itches, so he scratched it. And so I lifted up his shirt and I started scratching his back, and I noticed it looked like there was a little hump in his back. And we went and saw a doctor, and he looked at it and said, maybe scoliosis or something like that. And after more meetings, we found out it was inside his spinal cord.
That was a bad day.
Yeah, and they tried to get most of it out, and the doctor said that's probably the most painful operation known to man. And, after it was over, Quinton, he never really complained. He had to learn how to walk again and crawl again, and that was tough.
It was humbling. It was humbling to see him just sit up for the first time after that. He had a Sunday, and the pain was extreme. Every nurse who asked him what his pain level was, it was always like a 4. And it was like, you knew it had to be higher than a 4, but he was just like, it's a 4. But one day he was not doing well, and it was, I think it was before that radiation had time to work, and that tumor was really just trying to grow. It was causing him immense pain. I stayed home from church with him, and we were just laying there together in my bed, and he was just really angelic, and he was just very still. He would not move. The pain was so extreme, and he says, "Mom, I think I know what a 10 feels like." And I said, "Oh, honey, if I could take this from you, I would. I don't want you to be in pain like this, and if I could just take it from you, I would." And he says, "Mom," he was just very sweet and angelic, and he says, "Mom, for some reason, I know it has to be me." He goes, "I know there's some reason it's happening to me." And I said, I was just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. I said, "You just don't know what that reason is, do you?" And he says, "No one ever does, Mom." Like, it was just like, he didn't question it. He knew that it was part of his eternal progression, and he knew that it was, for whatever reason, that Heavenly Father had asked him to go through this, and he was very stoic. He had a lot of strength. And I says, "Q, I think there's angels here watching over you, and I bet your grandpas are here, and, well, your grandpa and your great-grandpa." And he says, "Yeah, I think they are. I think I can feel them here." And later he looked at me and he's like, this is just how like little drama he is, but he was like, "Mom, I feel kind of stupid for some of the stuff I was saying." And I was just like, don't, like, I loved it. Like, I was grateful that I just have that conversation with him, because I had been holding all this in, like, trying to keep it from him in some ways, and we were able to kind of open it up and have that conversation. But he was really cute about it. Later he was just like kind of embarrassed, but I was super glad that he had said what he had said, because it showed me he had a testimony. Like, he knew that he had been given this trial for a purpose. He didn't know what it was, but he didn't care. Like, he didn't demand to know why he was having to go through that. Things were pretty normal for about 18 months after that surgery. In that time he got really involved in Scouts, and that's when they did a 50-miler, and he weighed about 60 pounds. He could not put on weight for anything, and we were always, but he did it. Rocked it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he just, at an early age, he realized, just do what I can, just isolating's not going to get me anywhere.
I remember some of the other scouts told me afterwards that near the end of the trail one day he just threw up, and the other scout was like, I don't know how he was doing that. Like, he was so frail, but he just marched on. He threw up, got back on the trail like no big deal.
You didn't want that special treatment. You just wanted to be a normal kid.
A week before Christmas, Jeff took him for his MRI, and one of the worst times of year you could ever get that news. But I remember just helping them out of the car, and we were at the Kids with Cancer party and getting ready to go in, and I said to Jeff, how did it go? And he just said, not good. And so you're just sitting through that whole party just with that pit in your stomach. It's right before Christmas. You don't want to say anything to anybody else. But we knew it was back. And we knew it was bad. And the whole time I just wanted to break down and cry. It was just building up inside of me. But I didn't want to do it with him watching because I didn't want to scare him or make him feel like he was making me feel bad. It was coming back higher in the spine than it had been and lower in the spine than it had been. It was coming back everywhere inside there, and we had to hold on to that news through that whole Christmas, and said, no, he's going to start chemo January 1, right at the first of the year, so here we go. March of 2014, he was going to junior high. He got off the bus one day and said he told us that he was feeling tired, but just thought that he needed to come home and rest. I came in and was just kind of puttering around, and then he finally kind of got the strength to call me in. He didn't even have a lot of lung capacity, but he called me in and said, Mom, I can't feel my legs. And they took him via ambulance up to Primary Children's after that for a scan, and that scan showed that the tumor had grown more. From that point on, he was mostly paralyzed. And scary thing about that too was that, okay, that's the chemo, that's not working. We knew something was really scary about that. We knew. The doctor kind of pulled me out once he was at Primary Children's. It was the first time that she asked to speak to me outside of the room, and she took me in a little room, and I was just dreading it. I was like, I just do not want to hear what you're gonna tell me. I just knew I didn't want to talk to her because she wouldn't pull me out if it wasn't bad. And she pulled me out, and I said, Are you trying to tell me this is terminal? And she said, well, I don't really like that word, but I do think this tumor will end his life. And she said, but I don't think he needs to know that right now. She said, he'll ask at some point, but this isn't the point to tell him. And so then it became kind of like a burden, a secret that I was carrying around. And really my mourning started that day. I knew we were going to lose him. I had no idea when, had no idea how, but I kind of knew in my gut at that time that we were going to lose him, and I made the hardest phone call. I had to tell him that was hard, but then I made the hardest phone call to my mom, and I just imagine just choking on the words. I don't know, how do you tell someone that we're gonna lose your grandson? I felt so guilty, why can't I as a mom fix this for you? Why can't I heal you and make you better? And why do you have to go through this? I didn't bring you into the world to have this kind of adversity and things. So that was the day that I really kind of started my grief process.
I think everybody's grief process is different.
Mm-hmm.
Always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
You can go write a book on it, but it'll never be the same as somebody else's.
There were a lot of miracles that happened after that, but and we kept him a lot longer than we thought we might. And it was in the fall of 2014, and we went in, and they basically had said, there's one more we can try. There weren't very many options left, and I was so afraid of going to that appointment because I was afraid that they would say there's nothing more we could do. I just did not want to hear that. But they didn't. They said, there's one more we can try, and this last one hasn't been working for you as well, so we're just gonna switch you over. We could kind of see that this was a cycle that like maybe couldn't go on forever. We could tell his health was declining too, and at this point you could just look at his body and see how broken he was. His back was really, really curved, and his legs had atrophied, and he was in a lot of pain. His legs would shake. He'd have spasms. We all got kind of good at fixing his leg spasms, but they'd kick out, his legs would kick out really straight, and then it would hurt. It would hurt him. It would like squeeze the muscles in his stomach, and it would hurt his back. And so we would have to go and like physically bend his leg to get him to relax.
And like hold it so it stopped shaking.
Yep, we all got really good at helping him out however we could, huh? You guys would bring him drinks, and
it was a great experience just to like to serve him in any way that we could. I don't know, he wasn't like mean about it or anything, like go get me something. He'd be nice about it and say, can you go get me a drink of water?
It was a beautiful experience. We didn't know, we knew that we were serving someone very special.
yeah, there was that summer before he passed that he had to lay down the whole summer, and that was we had done some hard things, but that was a new hard thing. We put a hospital bed here in the living room so that he could come out here.
At that point, it was just a cycle, you know. He was on the chemo, things would look good. He'd have some breakdown of skin, or and then we'd have to get off of it, and it just kept cycling back and forth.
But in the meantime, I mean, he's going to school. I'm taking him to the high school because I work there, and I was able to be his teacher at this point too. And I had him in English class. It was a lot of fun because I didn't know quite how he behaved in class or anything, and as a parent you don't know that. And it was really fun to see like some of the comments that he made and how like interactive he was with the students at the high school, and they were always really nice to him, and he had like a good group of friends. But you could tell that there's like just a certain level of respect that his friends had for him because of all that he had gone through. Like there was no being in Quinton's presence without feeling like everyone could feel like he is just a stud, he is marching through this in his own way. He's a stud's probably not the right word, but it makes it a little harder now because I have those memories while I'm teaching, and I remember him in his wheelchair in my class and making comments, and I remember what he thought about certain passages, and now I still teach those, and it makes it a little bit harder now, but I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to teach him in class. He passed away February 20th, and he had been in the ICU for 2 weeks. Had a wheelchair accident and broke his leg in a couple places. He got life-flighted from Payson to Primary Children's, and it was really scary because the last thing he said to me before he got on the helicopter was, "Oh, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." The guy's oxygen and BiPAP readjusted, and he was able to make it there and to kind of come back a little bit, but he was having many strokes, and so from that point on, I mean, that was really all the normal life we had left with him was gone.
He never came back.
You'd just be standing there and his oxygen levels would just dip and dive, and it was really unpredictable. It was a really stressful 2 weeks. When he was developing sepsis, it was one of the very first times that, well, not one of the first, but it was the time when I really felt like I was losing him, because the nurse was just calling out his blood pressure every few seconds, and she'd say, "It's this and it's dropping, it's this and it's dropping, it's this and it's dropping," and they had to kind of rescue him with epi and saline and bring him back. And those things always happened the minute that Dad left the hospital. which he did not leave the hospital, hardly ever at all. But when I could convince him to leave, then these things would happen. I think it was because Q didn't want to disappoint his dad. But every time I'd open my mouth to pray and to have him heal, like, it was just like this comforting feeling that Heavenly Father would give me that was just like, nope, sweetie, he's gonna come back and live with me. And I knew that everything we were doing there was just kind of keeping him alive a little longer. I was terrified. A new doctor came on, or she just kind of decided, that things had to change, that we were calling respiratory therapy way too often and everything. And so she came to me and she said, we are going to move him to a higher respirator, and it's risky and things might happen. And I said, okay. And she said, one thing I need to ask you is, do you want him to go on life support, like ECMO is what it's called? And I had been in the ICU long enough that I knew we didn't want to hear the word ECMO. But I didn't know what my decision was going to be. I said, my husband's not here. We need to ask him too. But I trusted that I would open my mouth and that Heavenly Father would give me the right answer. But I already kind of knew what it was based on my prayers. And so I opened my mouth and I said, nope, I don't think we want life support. She says, okay, we're gonna try this higher respirator. We're gonna see how it goes. But they put him on, and worst case scenario happened. And so he crashed and he was code blue. And they brought this tiny little nurse in. And she went up and she did CPR and chest compressions. And I was outside watching and just felt so helpless. But at this time too, I'd had a blessing in the ICU. At the time when he had sepsis is when the social worker helped me get a priesthood holder down there. I got a blessing and I was pretty calm. And he hasn't been coherent enough to have a conversation, let alone ask for me. I don't know how he even asked because he was on a respirator. And but she said, for whatever reason, Quinton wants to talk to you, and we're going to have to put him under in just a minute. So you better say you better go have this conversation with them. So I just went over there, and I just thought, okay, no big deal. Like, I'm just going to encourage him and just going to say, hey, buddy, it's going to be okay. But I just got the impression at that time that his mission was complete, that he had experienced everything he needed to. I said, yes, I'm ready to go back to Heavenly Father. And I was able to let him know how much we loved him, and to tell him that his dad and I were going to be okay. And I promised him that we would be okay, and if he needed to go back to Heavenly Father, that it was all right, that I understood.
So you were mentioning earlier, Quinton was saying, there's a purpose to why I have this, and do you guys feel like now you understand a little bit more what that purpose may be, or is this still something?
No. I don't think we'll ever really know, Was it because we needed the trials? And did we needed to grow? Did he need to be perfect? Did he have to have that trial for something bigger and stronger? was it for him or was it for us? But I think everybody that's lost a child or a parent or whatever, they don't want people to forget them.
There's a lot of fear that you will lose the memories and that you'll lose the bond and that there's no opportunity to make more. So I feel like you got to hang on to all the ones that you have.
His room, we did it together, you know. We made the collection, we did all the stuff. Just kind of reminds you of the times you had. You know, I don't know if you, all of a sudden you throw it all in a box and put it away. It kind of, to me it would be like you're boxing up the memories, you know. It's like the pictures, for us, looking at the pictures and remembering the good times.